For 15,000 years, across the endless frozen grasslands of the Great Plains, the indigenous peoples of North America survived nights that would kill a modern human in minutes. They built shelters from the very element that tried to destroy them. They made fire where no trees grew. They turned their own bodies into furnaces using food that Europeans thought was barely edible. And here's the thing that might keep you up tonight. A thin wall of frozen water protected them better than any stone fortress ever could. This is what survival really looked like when winter came to kill. Quick thing before we dive in. If these stories help you drift off, a like or subscribe means a lot. And drop your city and the time down below. Always wild seeing comments from Tokyo at noon while someone in Texas is listening at midnight. Alright, so we're heading back to the Great Plains, somewhere around the early 1800s. But before we go anywhere, get comfortable. I mean it. Fix those pillows, pull up that blanket, because where we're going, you're going to want to be as warm as possible. Trust me on this one. Now. Close your eyes for a second. Actually, you know what? Keep them open if you're driving or something. But imagine this. You wake up. Except you're not in your bed. You're not even in a building. The first thing you feel is cold. Not the kind of cold where you go, oh, it's chilly and grab a sweater. This is different. This is the kind of cold that feels personal, like it has opinions about you specifically. Your name is Wanblee. It means eagle in Lakota. You're 18 winters old, which is the way your people count age. Not years, winters. Because out here on the plains, surviving winter is the thing that counts. Making it through another one means you've earned another number. You're lying on a bison robe inside your family's teepee. The hide is thick and warm against your back. Above you, smoke curls lazily toward the opening at the top of the dwelling, twisting around the wooden poles like a living thing. Your breath comes out in small white clouds. Your Uncle Matto is already awake. He's been awake for a while, you can tell, because he's done that thing where he stokes the fire without making any noise. Matto means bear. And like a bear, he moves with this quiet power that makes you feel like a clumsy deer by comparison. Today is the day. You've waited your whole life for this, your first real hunting trip. Not the kind where you tag along and watch, the kind where you carry your own bow, make your own decisions, kill your own game. The women have been preparing for this hunt for weeks. Your mother, your grandmother, your aunts. They've made pemmican, that dense mixture of dried bison meat and fat and berries that tastes like someone compressed an entire meal into something the size of your fist. They've checked every seam of your winter moccasins, stuffed them with fresh dry grass for insulation. They've prepared the bags of bison chips, the dried dung that burns slow and warm when there's no wood to be found. Because out here on the plains there are no forests, no convenient piles of firewood, just grass and sky and more grass and more sky, stretching in every direction until your eyes give up trying to find the horizon. The sky speaks today, Matto says, not looking at you. He's studying the smoke, watching how it moves through the smoke hole at the top of the teepee. You look up too. The smoke is doing something weird. It's not rising straight. It's kind of swirling, dancing in a pattern you haven't seen before. What does it say, you ask? Matto doesn't answer right away. That's how he is. Everything with him is deliberate, considered. He once told you that a man who speaks too quickly is like a hunter who runs at his prey. Both end up empty-handed. It says we should stay, he finally says, but the village needs meat. You feel a twist in your stomach. You know what that means. The hunting party has been delayed twice already because of weather signs. The winter stores are running lower than they should be. The elders have started rationing pemmican. The children eat first, then the women, then the men. You've noticed your mother giving you her portion when she thinks you're not looking. Then we go, you say. Matto looks at you then, really looks at you. His eyes are dark and deep, like pools of still water in summer. You can never tell what he's thinking, but right now you think you see something like pride. We go, he agrees. The hunting party gathers at the edge of the camp circle. There are 8 of you. Matto leads because he's the most experienced. He's survived 43 winters, which seems impossibly old to you. His hair has strands of grey in it now, but his arms are still thick with muscle, and he can draw a bow that you can barely string. The other hunters are a mix of ages, some older, some younger. You're the youngest by far. One of them, a man named Sunka Wakan, which means horse, keeps looking at you with this expression that says he thinks you shouldn't be here. He's 25 winters and thinks that's enough to know everything about everything. You don't say anything. You just grip your bow tighter and try to look like you belong. The sky is that grey colour that makes it impossible to tell where the sun is. The wind is coming from the west, steady and cold, carrying small flecks of snow that sting your cheeks like tiny needles. Your winter clothes are heavy. Bison robe over deerskin leggings, fur-lined moccasins with extra grass padding, mittens attached to a cord around your neck so you can drop them quickly to shoot without losing them. Your mother helped you get dressed this morning. She didn't say much, just checked every layer, every tie, every fold, made sure no skin was exposed, made sure the seams were tight. At one point she held your face in her hands and looked at you like she was trying to memorize you. "Come back," she said. That was all. You walk for hours. The plains stretch out forever, white and brown and grey, with nothing to break the monotony except the occasional cluster of cottonwood trees in the distance, marking where a river runs. The hunting party moves in single file, saving energy, following Matto's tracks through the snow. By midday, the sky has gotten darker. The wind has picked up. The flecks of snow are coming thicker now, starting to accumulate on your robe. Sunka Wakan moves up beside Matto. You're close enough to hear them talking, though you pretend you're not listening. "We should turn back," Sunka Wakan says. "We haven't found the herd yet. The sky is changing. The village needs meat. The village needs living hunters." Matto stops. Everyone stops. He turns to look at the sky, at the way the clouds are moving, at the way the snow is falling. You've watched him do this 100 times. He reads the sky like your grandmother reads the lines on her hands. "We have time," he says. "A few more hours." Sunka Wakan doesn't look convinced, but he doesn't argue. Nobody argues with Matto. Not about this. He's never been wrong about the weather. Not once. That's why the village trusts him with hunting parties. That's why he's still alive after 43 winters. But you're watching the sky too. And something feels different this time. The clouds are moving faster than they should be. The wind has shifted. It's coming from a different direction now. And there's a pressure in your ears like the air itself is getting heavier. You think about saying something, but you're 18. You've never been on a real hunt. Sunka Wakan is already annoyed that you're here. What are you going to say? "Hey, I have a feeling?" That'll go over great, so you don't say anything. 2 hours later you find the bison. They're in a shallow valley. Maybe 30 animals pouring at the snow to get at the grass underneath. The sight of them makes your heart pound. This is it. This is what you've been waiting for. Matto signals for everyone to spread out. You know the drill from watching hunts before. Approach from downwind. Move slowly. No sudden movements. Wait for the signal. You're just getting into position when it happens. The sky opens up, not gradually, not slowly. 1 second, there's snow falling. The next second, there's just white. Everywhere, in every direction. The wind doesn't just pick up, it screams. It hits you like a physical force, knocking you sideways, ripping the breath from your lungs. You can't see Matto. You can't see any of the hunters. You can barely see your own hands in front of your face. This is what your people call a whiteout, and you are alone. The first thing you do is panic. Your heart is hammering so hard it feels like it's trying to escape your chest. Your breath is coming in short gasps, which you know is bad, because sweating means wet clothes, and wet clothes mean death. But you can't help it. The wind is howling so loud you can't hear yourself think. The snow is blowing sideways, getting in your eyes, your nose, your mouth. You're spinning, trying to find something, anything, to orient yourself. Then you remember what Matto taught you. Stop. Just stop. Panic is the enemy. Panic makes you sweat. Panic makes you run in the wrong direction. Panic uses up the energy your body needs to stay warm. Panic kills faster than cold ever could. You force yourself to stand still. Close your eyes. Breathe. Slow. Steady. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. 4 counts in. 7 counts hold. 8 counts out. This is what your grandmother taught you when you were small and afraid of the dark. You're still afraid. But now you're afraid with a plan. First, shelter. Everything else comes after shelter. Matto drilled this into you from the time you could walk. The wind is more dangerous than the cold. Get out of the wind, and you can survive almost anything. You drop to your knees and start digging. Your mittens push the snow aside, piling it in front of you, creating a barrier. The snow is dense here, compacted by the wind. Good. Loose snow doesn't work. Old, packed snow does. You remember the stories. Your grandmother used to tell them on winter nights, when the fire was low and everyone was gathered close for warmth. Stories about hunters caught in storms, men who dug into the snow and survived the night, who emerged in the morning like bears from their dens. Snow is not cold. That sounds crazy, right? Snow is literally frozen water. How is it not cold? But here's the thing. Snow is full of air, tiny pockets of air trapped between the ice crystals, and air is an insulator. The same principle that makes your grandmother's feather quilts warm. The same principle that makes bison fur so effective against the cold. Inside a snow shelter, the temperature stays around freezing. 0 degrees. That sounds terrible. But when it's 40 below outside, and the wind is adding another 20 degrees of cold on top of that, 0 degrees starts to sound pretty good. You dig, and dig, and dig. Your arms are burning, your breath is fogging up. But you keep going because stopping means dying, and you're not going to die. Not here. Not like this. After what feels like forever, you have a hole. Not much of one. Barely big enough for you to squeeze into. But it's out of the wind, and right now, that's all that matters. You crawl inside. The difference is immediate. The howling wind becomes a muffled roar. The snow stops stinging your face. Your ears are still ringing, but the constant assault has stopped. You're alive, for now. You pull your bison robe around you, tucking in the edges, making sure no body heat escapes. Your moccasins are still dry, thank the ancestors. The grass stuffing is intact. Your fingers and toes are cold but not numb. All those times your mother checked your clothes. All those times she fussed over the seams and the ties and the layers. All those times you thought she was being overprotective. She was keeping you alive. You curl into a ball, minimizing your surface area, conserving heat. Your body is a furnace. That's what Matto says. Feed the furnace and it will keep you warm. You reach into the pouch at your belt and pull out a chunk of pemmican. It's frozen solid, but you work at it with your teeth, breaking off small pieces, letting them thaw in your mouth before you swallow. Fat, protein, energy, fuel for the furnace. The storm rages outside. You can hear it, even in here. The wind is a living thing, a predator that wants to get at you, that's scratching at the walls of your shelter, looking for a way in. But you built your walls well, and you're not afraid. Okay, you're a little afraid. Actually, you're terrified. Your hands are shaking, and not just from the cold. This is the first time you've ever been truly alone. The first time you've ever had to survive without someone else to guide you. But fear, like panic, is something you can control. Your grandmother taught you that too. Feel the fear, she said. Acknowledge it. And then put it aside, like a tool you're not using right now. So that's what you do. You're in a snow cave, in the middle of a blizzard, on the Great Plains, in the winter, and somehow, against all odds, you are warm. The snow walls glow with a faint blue light from outside. Your breath is creating a thin layer of ice on the interior, which will seal the walls and make them even more windproof. The temperature is bearable, not comfortable, but bearable. Outside, the storm continues to rage, but in here, in this tiny pocket of warmth you've carved out of the frozen earth, you close your eyes, and you wait for morning. The wind screams outside like something dying. You're curled up in your snow hole and you're realizing something. This shelter you dug in a panic, it's not going to work. Not for a whole night. Not in this storm. See, here's what Matto taught you about snow shelters, and here's what you forgot in your rush to get out of the wind. The entrance is wrong. Right now, you basically dug a horizontal tunnel into a snowbank and crawled inside, which seemed smart at the time. Get out of the wind, get underground, survive. But the cold air is pooling around you like water filling a bathtub. You're lying in the coldest part of the shelter. Every time the wind shifts, a fresh blast of freezing air rushes in and settles right where you are. You need to fix this. Now, before your body temperature drops any further, so you start digging again. But this time, you're thinking, you're remembering. Matto's voice is in your head, clear as day. Cold air is heavy, he told you once, sitting by the fire in your family's teepee. You were maybe 10 winters old. It sinks, like water finding the lowest point in a bowl. Warm air is light. It rises. If you understand this, you can survive anything. You didn't really get it then. You were 10. You wanted to go play with the dogs. You get it now. You dig down into the floor of your shelter, creating a pit, a depression right at the entrance. Then you dig up, making the sleeping area higher than the entrance. It takes forever. Your arms are burning. Your fingers are getting numb even through your mittens. You have to stop every few minutes to warm them against your body, tucking them into your armpits, breathing on them. But slowly, the shelter takes shape. When you're done, you've got something that looks like a bowl turned upside down. The entrance tunnel dips down before it comes up into the main chamber. The sleeping area is raised, and all that cold air that keeps rushing in, it flows down into the pit you dug, settles there, stays there. The warm air from your body rises up and stays in the dome above you. You've just built yourself a refrigerator that keeps you warm, which sounds like a contradiction. But that's how it works. One more thing. You take your knife and poke a small hole in the ceiling, just big enough to fit your finger through. Matto's voice again. Never seal yourself in completely. A man needs air. The snow will keep you warm, but it will also steal your breath if you let it. Suffocating in your own shelter. That's a real thing that happens. You fall asleep, your body uses up all the oxygen in the tiny space, and you just never wake up, warm and dead, which is better than cold and dead, but only slightly. The hole lets fresh air trickle in, not enough to make you cold, just enough to keep you breathing. Now you wait. The storm isn't letting up. If anything, it's getting worse. You can hear the wind changing pitch, rising and falling like some kind of animal cry. The snow is piling up outside your entrance. Every now and then, you have to reach out and clear it away so you don't get buried completely. Time passes. You have no idea how much. Could be an hour, could be 5 hours. When you're in a snow shelter in the middle of a blizzard, time stops meaning anything. You eat more pemmican, small bites. Let each piece dissolve in your mouth before swallowing. Your grandmother made this batch. You can tell because she always adds extra Saskatoon berries. Most people think pemmican is just fuel, something you choke down because you have to. But your grandmother, she makes it like she's cooking a feast. The fat is rendered smooth, no lumps. The dried meat is pounded fine. And those berries give it this slight sweetness that makes you actually want to eat it. You think about her, sitting in the teepee right now probably, worried sick. She's seen enough winters to know what this storm means. She's probably praying, burning sage, asking the spirits to bring you home. You're going to make it home. You decide this, right here, right now. You're not going to be a story the elders tell around the fire. Remember young Wunbly, lost in the storm of his first hunt? Such a waste. No, you're going to survive this night, and then you're going to find the others, and then you're going home. Something weird starts happening to your shelter. The walls are changing. Where your breath keeps hitting them, the snow is melting slightly, then refreezing, over and over, creating this thin layer of ice on the inside surface. At first you think this is bad. Ice is colder than snow, right? But then you notice the drafts have stopped. Those little currents of air that were sneaking through the packed snow, gone. The ice has sealed them. Your shelter is becoming airtight. Well, almost airtight. You've still got your breathing hole, which is now more important than ever. You adjust your bison robe, tuck it tighter, pull your knees up to your chest, make yourself as small as possible. The human body puts out heat like a small fire. Not much, but in an enclosed space it adds up. The snow walls reflect that heat back at you instead of letting it escape. The temperature inside your shelter is hovering right around freezing, 0 degrees, which sounds terrible, but outside it's probably 40 below, maybe worse with the wind. You're not comfortable, let's be clear about that. Your toes are cold, your fingers are cold, your nose feels like it might fall off, but you're not dying, and right now, not dying is the whole game. You think about the others, Mato, Sunkawakan, the rest of the hunting party. Are they doing this same thing right now, curled up in snow shelters scattered across the plains? Or did they make it back to camp? Or are some of them lying frozen in the snow, caught without shelter when the storm hit? You push that thought away. Mato knows what he's doing. He's survived 43 winters. He's not going to die in this one. But Sunkawakan was right, wasn't he? They should have turned back. Mato read the sky wrong. For the first time in his life, he read it wrong. Or maybe he read it right and went anyway. Because the village needed meat. Because people were hungry. Because sometimes there are no good choices, only bad ones and worse ones. You're starting to understand something about being an adult. It's not about always making the right decision. It's about making the best decision you can with what you know, and then living with the consequences. Right now, the consequence is that you're alone in a snow cave in the middle of a blizzard. Could be worse. At some point, you sleep. Not real sleep, more like drifting. Your body shuts down a little to conserve energy. You dream about warmth, about summer, about lying in the tall grass by the river, watching clouds drift across a blue sky. Then you jerk awake because the wind just made a sound like a woman screaming. It wasn't a woman, it was just wind. But your heart is pounding anyway. You check your breathing hole, still clear. Good. You check your entrance. Snow is piling up. You dig it out. The air that rushes in is so cold it feels like being stabbed. You work, fast, then retreat back into your dome. More time passes. The storm is starting to die down. You can tell because the wind isn't howling anymore. It's more like moaning, and the snow isn't falling as hard. The sound on the surface of your shelter has changed from a constant hiss to something more sporadic. You let yourself hope, just a little, and then light. Not much, just a faint glow coming through the snow above you, grey and weak and barely there. Morning. You made it. You want to laugh. You want to cry. You want to burst out of this shelter and scream at the sky that you survived, that you beat it, that this frozen wasteland tried to kill you and you're still here. But you don't do any of that, because you're not done yet. You're alive, but you're alone, and you have no idea where you are or where anyone else is. First things first. Before you go outside, you need to take care of your clothes. This is something Matto drilled into you, over and over, until you are sick of hearing it. Shake off the snow before you enter shelter. Shake it off before you leave. Snow on your clothes will melt from your body heat. Wet clothes will freeze when you go back into the cold. Frozen wet clothes will kill you faster than no clothes at all. So you check everything. Your robe, your leggings, your moccasins. You brush away any frost that's accumulated. You make sure the grass stuffing in your moccasins is still dry. It is, thank the spirits. Wet feet in this cold would be a death sentence. Only then do you start digging your way out. The world outside is white, completely white. The storm has passed, but it left behind a transformed landscape. Snow dunes everywhere, sculpted by the wind into strange shapes. The sky's pale grey, the sun just a bright smear behind thin clouds. You climb out of your shelter like a bear emerging from hibernation. That's what Matto always said. In the morning, the hunter rises from the snow like a bear from its den. Standing on top of your shelter, you can see for miles. The plains stretch out in every direction. Rolling white hills broken only by the occasional dark line of a frozen creek bed or the skeleton branches of distant cottonwoods. No sign of the others, no sign of anyone. You're alone. Okay. Think. What would Matto do? He'd look for tracks, but the storm would have buried any tracks. Nothing moves in a blizzard. Nothing survives in the open. He'd look for smoke. The camp would have fires burning. If you could see smoke rising, you'd know which direction to go. You scan the horizon. Nothing. Just white and grey and the occasional dark smudge of distant trees. He'd try to figure out where he is. Which way is home? The sun. Even behind the clouds, you can tell roughly where it is. It's morning, so that glow is in the east. The camp was to the southeast when you left it. The hunting party travelled northwest to find the bison. So home is that way, roughly. But how far? You walked for hours before the storm hit. Running in a panic during the whiteout, you could have gone in any direction. You could be a day's walk from camp, or you could be 3 days. Only one way to find out. You pick a direction, southeast, toward where you think the camp is, and you start walking. The snow is deep in places, up to your thighs. You have to lift your legs high with each step, which burns energy fast. Other places, the wind has packed the snow so hard you can walk on top of it without sinking. After about an hour of walking, you spot something, a dark shape against the white snow, not moving, half buried. Your heart stops. Please don't be one of the hunters. Please don't be Matto. You approach slowly. Brush away the snow. It's a bison. Dead. Frozen solid. One of the ones from the herd you were stalking when the storm hit. It must have run the wrong way. Got caught in the open. Frozen where it fell. You feel bad for it. But you also feel something else. Opportunity. A dead bison means food. Fat. Warmth. If you can't make it back to camp today, you've just found enough supplies to survive for weeks. You pull out your knife and get to work. Cutting into a frozen bison is not like cutting into a fresh kill. A fresh bison, you can work your knife through the hide, peel it back, get at the meat underneath. Takes skill, but it's doable. Your mother and aunts can break down a whole animal in a couple hours if they're working together. A frozen bison is basically a rock shaped like an animal. Your knife scrapes against the hide and barely leaves a mark. The flesh underneath is solid. You might as well be trying to carve stone with a fish bone. But you don't need the meat right now. You've got pemmican for that. What you need is something else. Bone marrow. Matto taught you about this. In winter, hunters who killed an animal would go for the bones first, not the meat. The bones. Because inside those bones was something more valuable than gold out here on the frozen plains. Marrow is pure energy. It's fat in its most concentrated form. Eating it is like throwing dry kindling on a dying fire. Your body lights up. Your blood warms. You can feel it spreading through you, pushing back the cold from the inside. Right now, with the sun barely up and a long walk ahead of you, marrow could save your life. You find a leg bone. The hide around it is frozen stiff, but there's a gap where the joint meets the body. You work your knife in there, sawing back and forth, your fingers already going numb. After what feels like forever, the bone comes free. Now you need to crack it open. You look around for a rock. There, half buried in the snow, you dig it out, test its weight. Good enough. 1 strike, 2, 3. The bone splits. Inside, the marrow is pale and waxy. You scoop it out with your fingers and shove it in your mouth. It doesn't taste like much. Kind of greasy, kind of bland. Europeans who tried it usually gagged, but you're not. Eating it for the taste. Within minutes you feel it. This warmth spreading from your stomach outward. Your fingers stop feeling quite so frozen. Your toes uncurl a little. You eat more, as much as you can get out of this bone. Then you crack another one. By the time you're done, you feel almost human again. Not warm exactly, but not dying either. You pack some extra marrow in your pouch, wrapped in a piece of the bison's hide that you managed to cut free. It'll freeze solid again, but that's fine. You can thaw it against your body later if you need to. You're about to start walking again when you hear it. A sound, faint, coming from somewhere to the north. You freeze. Listen. There it is again. A voice. Human. Someone calling out. Your heart pounds. Could be another hunter from your party. Could also be an enemy. Pawnee raiders have been spotted this far north before. Getting captured by enemies in winter is a death sentence. They won't waste food keeping you alive. You crouch down behind the bison carcass. Wait. Listen. The voice comes again, clearer this time, calling a name. Your name. Wanbli. You recognize that voice. Sunka Wakan, the one who kept looking at you like you didn't belong on this hunt, the one who argued with Matto about turning back. Part of you wants to stay hidden. Let him wander past. find his own way home, but that's the kind of thinking that gets people killed. Out here you don't survive alone. That's not how it works. That's never been how it works. You stand up, cup your hands around your mouth. Here, over here. A pause. Then you see him. A dark shape moving across the white snow, maybe 100 paces away. He changes direction, heading toward you. As he gets closer, you see he's not alone. He's got a horse with him. Somehow, his horse survived the storm. Sunkawakan looks rough. His face is wind-burned, red and raw. There's frost in his eyebrows. He's moving stiffly like every joint hurts, but he's alive. He stops a few paces away, looks at you, looks at the dead bison, looks back at you. You made it, he says. Not quite a question, more like he's surprised. I made it. He nods slowly. You can see him reassessing you. This morning you were the kid who shouldn't have been on this hunt. Now you're the kid who survived a night alone in a blizzard and found food. Marrow? He asks, gesturing at the cracked bones. Still some left in that leg. He doesn't wait for a second invitation. He's cracking bones and eating marrow within a minute, his horse standing patiently behind him. You watch him eat. The tension between you isn't gone, but it's changed somehow. Out here, with the wind picking up again and the temperature dropping, all that stuff about who belongs where seems pretty stupid. The others? You ask when he's done. He wipes his mouth with the back of his mitten. Don't know. Lost them in the whiteout. Spent the night in a ravine with this one. He pats the horse's neck. Thought we were both going to freeze. How'd you stay warm? Laid down with her. She's not happy about it, but she understands. We've been through storms before. You've heard about this. Using horses as living shields against the wind. Their bodies run hotter than humans. Lying against a horse is like lying against a fire that breathes. Which way is camp, you ask? Sunkawakan points southeast. Same direction you were planning to go. You sure? I grew up on these plains, kid. I can find my way home blindfolded. There's that edge again. That tone that says he knows more than you, that he's better than you, but you let it go. Because right now, having someone who knows these plains is more valuable than pride. Let's go then. You start walking. Sunkawakan leads the horse. The animal is tired. You can see it in the way she moves, but she keeps going. Horses on the plains are tough like that. They have to be. After about an hour of walking, the wind picks up again. Not as bad as yesterday, but bad enough. The sky's getting darker. More snow is coming. We need to stop, Sunkawakan says. The camp can't be that much further. Doesn't matter. We get caught in another storm like yesterday, we're dead. Both of us. He's right. You know he's right. But the thought of spending another night out here makes your stomach clench. Sunkawakan is already looking around, scanning the landscape, reading it like your grandmother reads stories in the fire. There. He points to a low rise in the distance. That's a creek bed, frozen over. There'll be a cut bank on the north side. You don't know what a cut bank is, but you follow him anyway. The creek bed is exactly where he said it would be. The cut bank turns out to be a steep slope where the water has carved into the earth over years. It creates a natural overhang, a shallow cave in the frozen dirt. Not big enough to stand in, but big enough to shelter 2 people and a horse. Sunkawakan gets to work immediately. He makes the horse lie down in the entrance to the overhang, creating a wall of warm flesh between you and the wind. The animal does it without complaint, like she's done it 100 times before. Then he starts gathering dried grass. There's plenty of it poking up through the snow, brown and dead but dry. He packs it into the bottom of the shelter, creating a barrier between your bodies and the frozen ground. Ground will steal your heat faster than the air, he says. Get some dirt or grass under you. You can survive almost anything. You help him gather more grass, armful after armful, until the floor of your little shelter is thick with it. The horse forms one wall, the cut bank forms the other. Sunka Wakan pulls out a bison hide that was strapped to his horse and hangs it over the entrance, creating a crude roof. It's not pretty, it's not comfortable, but when you crawl inside, the difference is immediate. The wind can't reach you. The horse's body is radiating, heat like a small fire. The grass beneath you is actually kind of soft. Now what, you ask? Now we wait. Sunka Wakan settles in beside you, close. Closer than you'd normally sit next to someone you barely know. But out here, distance is death. Closer, he says. What? Move closer. We share heat. We both live. We try to be polite. We both freeze. This is what your people call the Brotherhood of Warmth. You've heard the elders talk about it. Warriors on campaigns sleeping pressed together like dogs in a pile. Families during the worst nights of winter becoming one mass of bodies under shared furs. There's nothing awkward about it. Nothing strange. It's just survival. You shift until your back is against Sunka Wakan's back. He does the same. Your combined body heat starts to build in the small space. The horse's breathing creates a gentle rhythm. I was wrong about you, Sunka Wakan says suddenly. You don't respond, just wait. Thought you were too young. Thought you'd get someone killed. He pauses. You're still too young, but you're tougher than I expected. Coming from him, that's practically a declaration of love. Matto taught me, you say. Matto teaches everyone. Not everyone learns. You think about that. It's true. There are boys your age who have had the same training, heard the same stories, done the same exercises. Some of them would have panicked in that storm, run in circles until they collapsed, frozen to death because they forgot everything they knew. You didn't forget. When it mattered, you remembered. You think he's alive? You ask. Matto? He's alive. That old bear has survived worse than this. Probably made it back to camp before the worst of it hit. Sunka Wakan shifts slightly, getting comfortable. He'll be out looking for us tomorrow if we don't show up tonight. Tomorrow. That means another night out here. Your heart sinks a little. But then you look around. You've got shelter. You've got food. You've got another person to share warmth with and a horse to block the wind. Compared to last night, this is almost luxury. The sky outside is getting darker. Through the gaps in your bison hide roof, you can see the light fading. Another storm is definitely coming. You can feel it in the pressure of the air, the way the wind is starting to moan. But this time, you're ready. Sunka Wakan reaches into his pouch and pulls out some pemmican, breaks it in half, hands you a piece without asking. You eat in silence. The food is dense and heavy in your stomach. Good. That heaviness means your body has fuel. Fuel means heat. Sleep, Sunka Wakan says. I'll take first watch. Watch for what? Wolves mostly. Storm might push them into the creek beds looking for shelter. They smell the horse. They might get bold. You hadn't thought about wolves. One more thing trying to kill you out here. But you're too tired to worry about it now. You close your eyes. The horse's breathing becomes a kind of lullaby. Slow, steady, in and out. The warmth of Sunka Wakan's back against yours is solid and real. You dream about summer, about swimming in the river with the other boys, about your mother's cooking, about sitting around the fire listening to your grandmother's stories. Somewhere in the night, Sunka Wakan shakes you awake. "Your turn to watch," he murmurs, and then he's asleep almost before you can answer. You sit up carefully, not wanting to disturb the warmth you've built. Pull your robe tighter. Peer out into the darkness. Snow is falling again, heavy, but the wind has died down. Through the white curtain, you can't see much of anything. Then, movement. Out there in the dark. Your hand goes to your knife. You squint. Try to see. A shape. No, two shapes. Moving through the snow. Not wolves. Too big. Wrong silhouette. Horses. Your heart starts pounding again. Two horses walking through the storm, and on one of them, barely visible through the snow, a dark figure hunched against the cold. You know that figure. You'd know it anywhere. Matto. He's found you. Matto doesn't say anything at first. He just rides up through the snow, dismounts, and stands there looking at you. His face is impossible to read. Could be angry, could be relieved, could be both. Sunka Wakan is awake now, scrambling to his feet. The horse is getting up too, shaking snow off her sides. You stand there in the grey pre-dawn light, waiting. Then Matto does something unexpected. He laughs, not a big laugh. More like this low rumble that starts in his chest and works its way out. Like distant thunder. Grass under you, horse blocking wind, bison hide for a roof. He shakes his head slowly. You paid attention. That's it. That's all he says. But coming from Matto, it's everything. "How did you find us?" Sunka Wakan asks. "Followed the creek bed. Only place within a day's walk that would give shelter from a south wind." Matto shrugs like it was obvious. Like reading the landscape is as simple as reading your own hand. "Figured if either of you survived, you'd end up here." He's got a second horse with him, one of the pack animals from the hunting party. The others must have made it back. "The rest?" you ask. "All alive, cold, hungry, but alive. Chappa lost 2 toes to frostbite. He'll walk again, but he won't run." Matto's face goes serious for a moment. Something dark passes behind his eyes. Could have been worse. Should have turned back when Sunka Wakan said. You've never heard Matto admit he was wrong about anything. The sky speaks to him. The animals tell him their secrets. He reads the weather like your grandmother reads faces, and here he is, saying he made a mistake. Sunka Wakan doesn't gloat. He just nods once, accepts it, moves on. "How far to camp?" you ask. "Half a day's ride. Less if the wind stays down. Half a day. That's it. You are closer than you thought." Matto looks at the bison hide roof of your shelter, at the horse, at the grass padding, underneath. "You did this?" he asks, looking at you. "We both did." "Whose idea was the grass?" You hesitate, credit where it's due. "Sunka Wakan." Matto nods. Looks at Sunka Wakan with something like respect. "Good. Frozen ground kills as surely as frozen air." You pack up quickly. The bison hide goes back on Sunka Wakan's horse. You'll ride with Matto. Sunka Wakan's mount is tired, and doubling up would slow everyone down. The ride home is quiet. The plains stretch out around you, white and grey and endless. This storm left behind a transformed landscape. Familiar landmarks are buried or reshaped. You barely recognise anything. But Matto knows exactly where he's going. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't second guess, just rides. You think about what it takes to know a land this well. Generations, thousands of years of people walking these plains, memorising every hill, every creek, every place where the wind blows different. All that knowledge passed down from parent to child, elder to youth, never written down, just remembered. Your people carry maps in their minds that would take a library to record. The camp appears around midday. At first, it's just dark shapes against the white snow. Then the shapes resolve into tepees, a whole village of them, arranged in a circle, smoke rising from the openings at the top. You smell it before you really see it. Wood smoke, cooking meat, life. Your throat tightens. You didn't realize how much you missed it until now. People are coming out to meet you. Word spreads fast in a camp this size. By the time Matto reins up at the edge of the circle, there's a small crowd. Your mother is there. She doesn't run. That's not her way. But she walks fast, and when she reaches you, she grabs your face in both hands and just looks at you. 2 nights, she says. Her voice is steady, but her hands are shaking. 2 nights. I'm okay. 2 nights, she says again, like she can't quite believe you're standing here. Behind her, you can see your grandmother. She's not coming over. She's just standing by the teepee watching. But even from here, you can see she's smiling. The elders want to hear what happened. That's how it works. When hunters come back from a hard trip, the stories get shared. People learn from what went wrong, what went right, how to do better next time. But that can wait. Right now, all you want is to go home. Your family's teepee is exactly as you left it, and also completely different. After 2 nights in snow caves and creek beds, it looks like a palace. You push through the entrance. The door is made from heavy bison hide lined with fur on the inside. It hangs from a wooden frame fitted tight against the opening, not a gap anywhere. When it falls shut behind you, the wind just stops. Completely stops. Outside, you could hear it whistling across the plains. In here, nothing. Just the soft crackle of the fire and the gentle sounds of the women working. The difference in temperature hits. You like a wave. It's not hot in here. Not like summer, but compared to outside, it's another world. You stand there for a moment, just feeling it. Your grandmother looks up from her sewing. Close the door properly, you're letting the heat out. Some things never change. You secure the door and move further inside. The teepee isn't big, maybe 15 paces across at the base, but the conical shape makes it feel larger than it is. The poles stretch up and up, meeting at the smoke hole high above. The fire burns in the center, small, controlled. Your people don't build big fires indoors. That's wasteful. The trick is to build a fire just hot enough to warm the space without burning through all your fuel in one night. Hot stones ring the fire pit. They've been heating all day. Later, when the fire dies down to coals, those stones will keep radiating heat for hours. But the real magic isn't the fire. The real magic is the walls. See, when Europeans first saw a teepee, they thought it was just a tent. Some poles, some animal skins, a hole at the top for smoke. Simple, primitive. The kind of thing you'd expect from people who don't have real buildings. They had no idea what they were looking at. You settle onto your sleeping place and really look at the walls for the first time. Like, really look. You've lived in this teepee your whole life, but after 2 nights outside, you're seeing it with new eyes. The outer shell is bison hide, multiple hides sewn together, thick, waterproof, windproof. But that's just the first layer. Inside, about an arm's length from the outer wall, there's another layer of leather. This inner wall hangs from the poles at about head height and drops all the way to the ground. Your people call it the dew cloth, because it keeps moisture from forming on the inside of the outer wall and dripping on you while you sleep. But that's not really what it's for. The dew cloth creates a pocket of air between the 2 walls, and that pocket of air is the whole secret. Cold air comes in under the outer wall. You can feel it if you stick your hand down near the bottom edge. Freezing. But that cold air doesn't come into the living space. Instead, it rises up in the gap between the walls, gets pushed up toward the smoke hole by the warm air from the fire, and exits out the top. Meanwhile, the warm air from the fire stays inside, trapped by the inner wall. It's a chimney. That's what the Europeans never understood. The whole teepee is one big chimney, designed to move air in exactly the right way. The fire gets fresh cold air from outside, so it burns clean and bright. The smoke gets sucked straight up and out so you can breathe, and the warm air circulates inside, staying where you need it. Your grandmother explained it to you once when you were small. The cold air wants to enter, she said, so we give it a path. We let it in, but we tell it where to go. Up the walls, out the top. It thinks it won. You remember laughing at that. The idea of tricking the cold air. You're not laughing now. 2 nights ago, cold air almost killed you. And here, in this teepee, your ancestors figured out how to outsmart it. There's more. In winter, your mother stuffs dry grass into the gap between the walls. Another layer of insulation, more trapped air. The teepee becomes like those snow shelters you built, but permanent, portable, perfect. The floor isn't bare ground either. There's a layer of willow branches laid down first, then woven mats on top of that, then bison hides. Multiple barriers between your body and the frozen earth that wants to steal your heat. Your sleeping place is at the back of the teepee, directly across from the entrance. That's where the warmest air collects. The elders and honoured guests always sleep at the back. You're not an elder or an honoured guest, but you're family, and your grandmother insisted. You lie down on your bison robe. The ground underneath is soft from all those layers. Your grandmother has piled extra furs over your sleeping spot. She didn't say anything about it, just did it. That's how she shows love. The fire crackles. Someone is cooking something. You can smell meat and wild turnips and something else you can't identify. Your stomach growls. Your mother appears with a wooden bowl. Eat, then sleep. The bowl is full of soup, hot soup, with actual pieces of bison meat floating in it. And fat. You can see the fat shimmering on the surface. You eat so fast you burn your tongue. You don't care. When the bowl is empty, you lie back down. Your body feels heavy, like all the tension from the past 2 days is finally draining out of you. The teepee is filled with quiet sounds, women talking softly, the fire popping, wind outside but distant now, harmless. Your grandmother is telling a story to your younger cousins, something about Iktomi, the spider trickster. The kids are giggling. You've heard this story 1,000 times, but it doesn't matter. The sound of her voice is its own kind of warmth. Outside, the temperature is dropping again. You can hear the wind picking up. Another cold night on the plains. In here, you're warm, fed, safe, surrounded by people who love you. This is what you almost died for. This is what your ancestors built, generation after generation, through thousands of winters. Not just shelter from the cold. Home. The fire has burned down to coals. The hot stones are glowing orange in the dim light. Someone has put more grass in the gap between the walls. Your grandmother is still talking, but her voice has gotten softer, slower. The story is winding down. Your eyes are heavy. You think about the blizzard, about digging into the snow with frozen hands, about the long night alone, listening to the wind scream. You think about Sunka Wakan, about lying back to back in that cut-bank shelter, about the moment when he stopped seeing you as a kid and started seeing you as someone who belonged. You think about Matto, about his laugh when he found you, about the look on his face when he saw you'd survived. 2 nights on the plains in the worst storm of the winter, and here you are. Your mother pulls another fur over you, tucks it around your shoulders. Her hand rests on your head for just a moment. Sleep, she says again. So you do. You wake up to the smell of smoke. Not the panic kind, the good kind. Wood smoke and something else underneath it. Something earthy, familiar. For a long moment you just lie there, eyes closed, warm. The bison furs are heavy on top of you. The ground underneath is soft. You can hear voices, women talking, kids laughing somewhere outside. You're home. The past 2 days feel like a dream. A bad one. The kind where you wake up and have to convince yourself it wasn't real. Except your body knows it was real. Your arms ache from digging. Your legs are sore from walking. There's a raw spot on your cheek where the wind burned it. But you're alive. You open your eyes. The teepee is bright with morning light filtering through the hide walls. The fire has been rebuilt, small and steady, just like always. Your grandmother is sitting by it, doing something with her hands that you can't quite see. "Good," she says without looking up. "You're awake. Come help." That's your grandmother. No, "How are you feeling?" or "Glad you survived." Just come help. Life moves on. Work needs doing. 2 days lost to a blizzard means 2 days of catching up. You crawl out of your sleeping furs and move to sit beside her. She's sorting through a pile of dried bison dung. Bison chips, your people call them. Flat, round patties about the size of your hand, brown and hard and surprisingly light. "Feel this one," she says, handing you a chip. You take it. It's dry, crumbly at the edges, doesn't smell like much of anything. "Good fuel," your grandmother says. "Burns slow, burns hot, better than wood for keeping a fire through the night." You know this, of course. You've been gathering chips since you were old enough to walk. It's kid work, women's work, not something hunters think much about. But after 2 nights without fire, you're thinking about it now. "We're low," your grandmother continues. "Storm kept everyone inside. Now we need more." She looks at you. That look that says she expects you to do something. "I'll go," you say. "Take your cousin and the big basket." Outside, the world is white and still. The storm has passed completely. The sky is that pale winter blue that hurts your eyes if you look at it too long. The snow crunches under your feet, frozen solid overnight. Your cousin's Iskala is already waiting. She's 12 winters old, small for her age, but tough. Her name means bird. She's got quick hands and sharp eyes, perfect for spotting chips under the snow. "Grandmother says you almost died," she says as you start walking. Grandmother exaggerates. She says you built a shelter out of snow and survived 2 nights, alone. 1 night was alone. 1 night was with Sunka Wakan. Zitkala considers this. Sunka Wakan is mean. He's not so bad. He told my brother he was too small to hunt. Your brother is 7, still mean. You can't argue with that. The chip grounds are about a half-hour's walk from camp. In summer, this is where the bison graze. Thousands of them, covering the plains like a moving brown sea. They eat grass, they make chips. Simple as that. In winter, the bison have moved south, following the grass. But the chips remain, scattered across the frozen ground like nature's coal. The trick is finding dry ones. Fresh chips are useless. Wet chips just smoke and smoulder without giving off heat. You need old chips, ones that have dried in the sun for months. They're lighter, harder, and they burn clean. "There," Zitkala says, pointing. She's spotted a patch where the wind has scoured the snow away, exposing bare ground. Chips everywhere. Some half buried, some sitting right on top. You get to work. It's not glamorous. You're basically picking up dried animal droppings and putting them in a basket. If you told a European what you were doing, they'd probably make that face. That disgusted, superior face that says they'd rather freeze to death than burn dung. Your people tried to explain it once. to some French traders who were wintering nearby. The traders had brought wood, lots of it, hauled it for miles on their horses, and when the wood ran out halfway through winter, they sat in their tents and shivered and looked down their noses at the savages burning dung. 3 of them lost fingers to frostbite, 1 lost an ear. Your people didn't lose anything. You pick up a chip, knock the snow off it, drop it in the basket, pick up another, knock, drop, repeat. Grandmother says fire is alive, Zitkala says. What? She says it needs to eat, like a person. And if you feed it right, it stays happy. If you don't, it dies. Your grandmother says a lot of things. Half of them sound crazy until you really think about them. She told me about the fire carriers, Zitkala continues, the ones who keep coals alive during travel. Fire carriers, you've seen them, usually older women, trusted with one of the most important jobs in the tribe. They carry these special pots, lined with clay, filled with slow-burning coals. The coals can smoulder for days if you tend them right. Add a little dried grass, a little fat. Keep them covered but not smothered. When the tribe moves camp, the fire carriers go in the middle of the group, protected. Because losing those coals is a disaster. Starting a fire from scratch isn't impossible. You can do it with a bow drill, spinning a stick against a piece of dry wood until friction creates an ember. But it takes time, energy, and in a blizzard, when your hands are numb and the wind is blowing and every second counts, that time and energy could be the difference between living and dying. Better to keep the fire alive. Carry it with you. Protect it like you'd protect a child. Grandmother says a family that lets their fire die has lost something important, Zitkala says. Grandmother's right. The basket is getting full, heavy. You shift it to your other shoulder and keep working. What was it like, Zitkala asks, being alone in the storm? You think about how to answer. She's 12. She doesn't need nightmares. Cold, you finally say. That's it. Just cold? Really cold. She makes a face. Clearly not the dramatic story she was hoping for. The worst part, you say, wasn't the cold. It was the quiet. Zitkala looks at you, waiting. In the storm, everything is noise. Wind screaming, snow hissing. You can't think. You can barely breathe. But then you get in your shelter, and all that noise just stops, and it's quiet. So quiet you can hear your own heartbeat, and you're lying there, alone, and you realize that if something goes wrong, there's no one coming. No one even knows where you are. Zitkala has stopped gathering. She's just standing there, looking at you. That's what almost killed me, you say. Not the cold, the quiet. You don't know why you're telling her this. Maybe because she asked. Maybe because you need to say it out loud. Maybe because she's 12 and too young to hunt and spending a morning picking up dried dung, and she deserves to know that the world is harder than she thinks. But you made it, she says. I made it. Because grandmother taught you. Because a lot of people taught me, and I paid attention. The basket is full. Your shoulders ache. Time to head back. The walk home is quiet. Zitkala is thinking about what you said. You can see it in her face. That's good. Thinking keeps you alive out here. Back at camp you dump the chips by your grandmother's fire. She inspects them with a critical eye, picking through the pile, discarding the ones that are too damp or too crumbly. Good, she says finally. That's high praise from her. She takes one of the better chips and breaks it in half, showing you the inside. Dry, fibrous. It looks almost like packed grass. See how it's layered? That's what makes it burn slow. The fire works its way through, layer by layer, not like wood, where the whole thing catches at once. She places the chip on the edge of the fire. It doesn't burst into flames. It just starts to glow, orange spreading across its surface like sunrise. "Watch," she says. "You watch." The chip burns steady. No crackling, no popping. Just this constant, even heat radiating outward. After a few minutes, she places a clay pot near it. "Hotter for tea." "A pile of these will keep a fire going all night," she says. "No need to wake up and feed it. Just make sure there's enough at the start and it takes care of itself. This is how your people survive the plains, not by fighting the land, but by understanding it. The bison eat the grass, the bison leave chips, the chips become fuel. The fuel becomes fire, the fire becomes life, everything connected, everything useful, nothing wasted." Your grandmother reaches into the fire with bare hands, not into the flames themselves, but close. She pulls out one of the stones that ring the fire pit. "Feel," she says. She places the stone in your palm. It's hot but not burning. A deep, steady warmth that spreads through your hand and up your arm. "Stones hold heat," she says. "Fire dies, stones keep warming. On cold nights, we wrap them in hide and put them in the beds, like holding a piece of the sun. You've slept with hot stones before. Everyone has. But you never thought about why. It was just something you did." "Fire is the center," grandmother says. She's not looking at you anymore. She's looking at the flames. Everything comes from fire, heat, light, cooked food, safety. The animals fear it. The cold fears it. As long as the fire lives, we live. She's quiet for a moment. Then she reaches into a small pouch at her belt and pulls out a pinch of tobacco. She tosses it into the flames. "Thank you," she says to the fire. You've seen her do this 1,000 times, feeding the fire, thanking it, like it's a guest in your home. Maybe it is. "Grandmother," you say, "what happens if the fire dies, when the tribe is moving and the fire carriers lose their coals?" She's quiet for a long moment. "It's happened," she says finally. "Not often. Fire carriers are careful, but sometimes, storm too strong, accident, bad luck. What do? You go to another family, ask to share their fire. They give you coals, you start again." She pauses. "But it's a shame, a mark. People remember. They say that family lost their fire, and everyone knows what it means. You think about that, the weight of it, carrying something so important, having everyone depend on you. The fire carriers, you say, they must never sleep." Your grandmother laughs, that rare rusty sound that means you've genuinely amused her. "They sleep, but light, always light, one ear always listening, one hand always ready." She looks at you, like hunters, like warriors. The work is different, but the weight is the same. The water is boiling now. Your grandmother takes the pot and pours tea, hands you a cup. You sit there together, drinking tea, watching the fire burn. The chips are glowing steady. The stones are radiating heat. Outside, the wind has picked up again, but in here, you can barely hear it. Your mother comes in with an armload of hides that need mending. Your younger cousins follow, arguing about something. The teepee fills up with people, with noise, with life. But the fire stays at the centre, always at the centre. You finish your tea and set the cup down. Your grandmother is already back to work, sorting chips, checking stones, tending the fire like she tends everything else in her life. Carefully, constantly, with love. "Grandmother," you say. "Thank you." She doesn't look up, doesn't stop working. But you see the corner of her mouth twitch, just a little. "Go help your mother," she says. "Those hides won't mend themselves." So you go. The hides your mother is working on are stiff as boards. You've seen her do this before, of course. She's always working on something. Hides, clothing, food, something. But you've never really watched, never really paid attention to what her hands are doing. Today, you're paying attention. Hold this edge, she says. Pull it tight. You grab the hide and stretch it while she scrapes. The tool in her hand is made from bison bone, sharpened to a smooth edge. She drags it across the inside of the hide, removing the last bits of flesh and membrane. Slow, careful strokes. Nothing rushed. Why does it have to be so clean, you ask? Because anything left behind will rot, and rotted hide falls apart. She keeps scraping. A robe that falls apart in the middle of a blizzard is worse than no robe at all. At least with no robe, you know you're in trouble. The hide is from the fall hunt. Your mother has been working on it for weeks, first soaking it, then stretching it on a frame, then scraping, always scraping. What's next, you ask? She nods toward a clay pot sitting near the fire. Something grey and lumpy is bubbling inside it. Brains, she says. You look at the pot, then back at her. Brains. Bison brains. Cooked soft. We rub them into the hide to make it soft too. You've heard of this. Brain tanning, the elders call it. But you've never actually seen it done. Your mother wipes her hands on her apron and goes to the pot. She scoops out a handful of the grey mush. It's warm, slippery, and honestly kind of disgusting. The brains have fat in them, she explains. Special fat. It gets into the hide between all the tiny fibres, keeps them from sticking together. She starts rubbing the brain mixture into the hide. Without this, the leather would dry stiff, crack in the cold, useless. She works the mush into every part of the hide. Her fingers dig deep, massaging it into the leather. It's hard work. Her arms are shaking by the time she's done. Now we wait, she says. Let it soak in. Tomorrow we stretch it again, then smoke it over the fire to seal everything in. How long until it's ready? 3 days, maybe 4. She wipes her hands again, looks at the hide with a critical eye. Your grandmother can do it faster, but I'm not your grandmother. This is what keeps you alive. Not just the hunting, not just the killing, everything that happens after. The skinning, the scraping, the tanning, the sewing. Hours and hours of work that turns a dead animal into warmth you can wear. The men get the glory. The women do the work that actually matters. Across the teepee, your aunt is making pemmican. You've eaten pemmican your whole life, chewed on it during long walks, stuffed it in your mouth when you were hungry and there was nothing else. It tastes like meat and fat and sometimes berries. Dense, heavy. Fills you up in a way that regular food doesn't. But you've never really watched it being made either. Your aunt has a pile of dried meat in front of her. Thin strips that were hung on racks last summer, left to dry in the sun until they were hard as wood. She takes a strip and places it on a flat stone. Then she starts pounding. The sound is rhythmic. Thump, thump, thump. She uses a smaller stone as a hammer, crushing the dried meat into smaller and smaller pieces. After a few minutes, it's not strips anymore. It's powder, fine and brown and almost like dust. The finer the powder, the better it mixes, your aunt says without looking up. Chunks don't work. The fat won't bind with chunks. She sweeps the powder into a wooden bowl and starts on another strip. Thump, thump, thump. The sound is almost hypnotic. Next to her, another bowl holds rendered fat. Bison fat, heated until it melted and then strained clean of any bits. It's cooled now, white and solid, like a chunk of snow that doesn't melt. When she has enough meat powder, your aunt starts adding fat, scooping it in, mixing with her hands. The fat softens from the warmth of her fingers. blends with the meat. The mixture starts to change, becoming thick and dark and sticky. How much fat, you ask? Half and half meat, half fat. Any less and it won't keep. Any more and it's too greasy to eat. She keeps mixing. Her hands are coated in the stuff now. She doesn't seem to mind. Some people add berries, she says. Saskatoons, cranberries. Makes it taste better. But the plain kind lasts longer. She glances at the pot of berries sitting near her. Your grandmother always wants berries. Says plain pemmican is for warriors who don't care about living well. You smile at that. Sounds like your grandmother. When the mixture is smooth and even, your aunt starts shaping it, pressing it into flat cakes about the size of her palm. Each cake gets wrapped in a piece of dried hide and tied with sinew. One of these, she says, holding up a finished cake, is enough food for a whole day. Maybe two if you're not working hard. She sets it aside and starts on another. A bag of these will keep a man alive for a month in the snow. One cake, 1 day of life. All that work, all those hours of drying meat and rendering fat and pounding and mixing, and it comes down to something small enough to fit in your hand. Your mother is watching you watch the pemmican being made. She has that look on her face. The one that says she's about to teach you something whether you want to learn or not. You know why you survived those 2 nights, she asks. You think about it. The snow shelter, the fire, the bone marrow. The shelter, you say, and the marrow. Those helped, but they're not the reason. She comes to sit beside you. You survived because of what you ate before you left. You don't understand. Remember breakfast that morning? I made you eat extra. You complained, said you weren't hungry. You do remember, vaguely. She'd pushed food at you until you felt like you might burst. I gave you extra fat, extra pemmican, filled your body with fuel before you went out into the cold. She pokes your stomach gently. In here, that's where warmth really comes from. Not from fires, not from clothing, from the food you eat. But I had fire, I had my robe. And if you didn't have those things, you'd still have survived. Because your body had fuel. It kept making heat even when everything else failed. She looks at you seriously. A hungry man freezes faster than a full one. Every time. Doesn't matter how good his clothing is. Doesn't matter how perfect his shelter. If the fire inside is dying, nothing else can save him. This is what the elders mean when they talk about the body being a furnace. You always thought it was a metaphor, something poetic. It's not. It's literal. Your body burns food the same way a fire burns wood, and just like a fire, it needs fuel to keep going. Before you sleep on a cold night, your mother continues, you eat something fatty, something heavy. It sits in your stomach and your body works to break it down. That work makes heat, keeps you warm through the night. You think about your first night in the snow shelter, the pemmican you ate before you closed your eyes. You thought you were just hungry, but maybe your body knew what it needed. What about water, you ask? Your mother nods approvingly. Good question. Never eat snow, she says. Even if you're thirsty, snow is frozen. Your body has to warm it up before it can use it. That uses heat, steals it right out of your belly. So what do? She reaches into her belt and pulls out a small leather flask, hands it to you. Keep it close to your skin, she says. Here, against your chest, or in your armpit. The warmth of your body melts the snow slowly, turns it into water you can drink without losing heat. You hold the flask. It's soft, well worn. The leather is dark from years of use. Your father gave me that, your mother says quietly, when we were first married, told me to always keep it full. Said a woman who carries water carries life. You don't remember your father. He died in a raid when you were 3 winters old. Your mother doesn't talk about him much. When she does, her voice gets that quality, soft and far away. You hand the flask back carefully. She tucks it against her chest under her robe. Your grandmother has appeared at some point. She's examining the finished pemmican cakes, nodding with approval. Not bad, she says to your aunt. Better than last year. Your aunt glows at the praise. From grandmother, that's practically a medal. The winter stores are almost full, grandmother says. Another week of work and we'll be ready for anything. Ready for anything. That's what your people do. Summer is for gathering. Fall is for hunting. Winter is for surviving on what you've saved. You look around the teepee. Bundles of dried meat hanging from the poles. Stacks of pemmican cakes wrapped and stored. Piles of bison chips for fuel. Robes and furs and clothing. All carefully prepared. All waiting. Your grandmother sees you looking. She smiles. That rare, crinkled smile that makes her look almost young. Every bite of food, she says. Every piece of hide. Every bundle of grass stuffed in a moccasin. It all adds up. Little pieces that fit together. Miss one piece, and the whole thing falls apart. She picks up a moccasin from a pile near the fire. Winter moccasins, taller than the summer ones, lined with soft rabbit fur. See this? She points to the extra space around the toes. For grass. You stuff it in before you leave the teepee. It traps air against your feet, keeps the heat in. She turns the moccasin over, and when the grass gets wet from sweat, you throw it away. Put in new grass. Takes 10 seconds. Keeps your feet alive. Wet feet in winter. That's death. Frostbite starts in the toes, spreads from there. Chapper lost 2 toes because his feet got wet and he couldn't dry them in time. The Europeans don't understand grass, your grandmother says. They think it's nothing, something to walk on. But grass is everywhere out here. It's insulation. It's fuel. It's bedding. It's the difference between living and dying. She puts the moccasin back. Picks up a pair of mittens instead. They're attached to a long cord that loops around the neck. Why the cord, you ask? Because dropping a mitten in a blizzard means losing fingers. She mimes shaking her hand out of the mitten, letting it dangle by the cord. You need your hands free to shoot an arrow, pull a knife, do something quick, but you also need to get them covered again fast. The cord lets you do both. Every detail, every little thing, thought through over thousands of years, tested by people who died when they got it wrong and survived when they got it right. Natural selection, but for technology. Your mother hands you a piece of pemmican. You take a bite. It's fresh, still soft from the mixing. The fat coats your tongue. The meat is rich and earthy. There are berries in this one after all. A hint of sweetness. You chew slowly, feeling the heaviness of it settling in your stomach. Fuel for the furnace. Outside the sun is going down. The teepee is getting darker, lit only by the fire. Your family is gathered close. Mother, grandmother, aunt, cousins. All the people who kept you alive without you ever really thinking about it. The work continues, always continues. Hands moving, preparing, making. But for now, you just sit, watch, learn. Tomorrow you'll help more, learn more, become more useful. Tonight, you're just grateful to be warm. The cold that night is different. You've been cold before, plenty of times. But this is something else. This is the kind of cold that makes the air itself feel heavy, sharp, like breathing in tiny pieces of broken glass. Your grandmother knows it before anyone else. She's been watching the fire all day, watching how the smoke moves, how the air feels against her skin. Now, as the last light fades outside, she starts giving orders. "Tonight we sleep together," she says. Not a suggestion, a command. Your mother and aunt immediately begin rearranging the teepee. The usual sleeping spots around the edges, abandoned. Everything gets pulled toward the centre, closer to the fire, closer to each other. You've done this before, during bad cold snaps. But there's something about your grandmother's tone tonight that makes everyone move a little faster. "The deep cold is coming," she says, almost to herself. "The kind that kills." Here's the thing about sleeping arrangements during winter on the plains. There's nothing random about it, nothing casual. Where you sleep, who you sleep next to, how you position yourself. It's all been figured out over thousands of years, tested by people who froze to death when they got it wrong. Your grandmother takes charge, the way she always does when survival is on the line. "Little ones in the centre," she says, pointing. "Your youngest cousins, 3 of them, all under 7 winters, get placed right in the middle of everything. They curl up together like puppies, already half asleep. Around them, the women, your mother, your aunt, 2 older cousins. They form the next ring, bodies facing inward toward the children. And on the outside, the men and the teenagers, you, your Uncle Matto, and Sunka Wakan, who decided to stay the night rather than walk home in the deepening cold. You're a living wall. That's what you are. Your body, your warmth, positioned between the cold that seeps in from the teepee walls and the people who can't afford to lose any heat." "Why do the men sleep on the outside?" you asked once years ago. Your grandmother had laughed. "Because men have more heat to spare, more muscle, more fat if they've been eating well." She'd poked your skinny ribs, which you haven't. Eat more. But there's another reason too. Men and teenagers can generate heat faster if they start getting cold. They can move, flex their muscles, get the blood flowing. Children can't do that as well. Old people can't either. Their bodies don't respond the same way. So you put the vulnerable ones in the centre, where it's warmest. Surround them with protection. And the ones who can handle the cold, they take the edge. Tonight, your grandmother positions herself in the inner ring despite her age. She claims she runs hot. Nobody argues with her. The blankets come out, not individual ones. One massive hide, several bison skins sewn together into something that can cover everyone at once. It's heavy. Has to be. Heavy enough to trap all that body heat underneath. You remember asking why they don't just use separate blankets. "Because air moves," your mother had explained. "Your blanket, my blanket, your cousin's blanket. There's gaps between them. Cold air gets in, heat escapes." She demonstrated with her hands, showing how air flows through seams. One big blanket pulled tight around everyone, sealed at the edges. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. All that warmth stays right where you need it. Simple physics. Except nobody called it physics. They called it common sense. The blanket gets arranged now. Edges tucked under bodies. No gaps. No openings except a small one for breathing. And then come the dogs. 3 of them tonight. Big ones, thick-furred, bred for exactly this kind of weather. They push their way under the blanket without being invited, like they've done this 1,000 times before, because they have. One dog settles near the children, another wedges itself between your mother and aunt. The third, the biggest one, a grizzled male with one torn ear, pushes against your back. His body is hot, hotter than yours. Dogs run warmer than humans, and this one feels like a living fire pressed against your spine. "Good boy," you mutter, and he shifts closer. Dogs aren't pets out here. I mean, people love them, Sure, kids play with them, give them names, treat them like family. But they're also working animals. They pull sleds, they guard the camp, they warn of predators, and on the coldest nights, they're heating units. A dog's body temperature runs around 102 degrees. That's several degrees hotter than a human. Pack 3 or 4 big dogs under a blanket with your family, and you've basically added a small fire's worth of heat. Plus they don't need fuel, just food you are going to give them anyway. The teepee is dark now except for the fire which your grandmother has banked low. Just enough to keep burning through the night, just enough to give off steady warmth without needing constant attention. Around you, bodies settle, breathing slows. The children are already asleep, piled on top of each other in a tangle of small limbs. Your mother's breathing deepens. Your aunt starts to snore, soft and rhythmic. You're pressed against Sunka Wakan on one side and Mato on the other, their backs against yours, all of you facing outward, toward the cold, creating a barrier of living flesh. In the centre of this human pile, the temperature is probably 30 or 40 degrees warmer than outside, maybe more, all that body heat trapped and recycled, building on itself. You can feel it working. Your back, pressed against your companions, is warm. Your front, facing the wall of the teepee, is cooler, but not cold, just less warm. This is how you survive the killing cold, not alone, together. You awake? Mato's voice is low, barely a whisper. Yeah. Good. First watch is yours. Wake me in a few hours. Even now someone has to stay alert. Not for enemies. Nobody's stupid enough to attack in this weather. But for other things. Someone getting too cold. A child waking up disoriented. The fire dying down too far. You. Keep your eyes open in the darkness. Listen to the breathing around you. Feel the steady rise and fall of backs pressed against yours. The wind outside is screaming. You can hear it tearing at the teepee, trying to find a way in. But the shelter holds. The walls don't move. The carefully designed structure is doing exactly what it was built to do. Inside, it's warm. Not comfortable warm, not like a summer night, but survivable warm, human body warm. Your grandmother coughs in her sleep, a dry, rattling sound that worries you. She's been doing that more lately, getting older, slower. Her body doesn't generate heat the way it used to. That's why she sleeps in the inner ring, even though she pretends she doesn't need to. Everyone knows. Nobody says anything. One of the children shifts, whimpering. Probably a bad dream. But before you can even react, your mother's arm reaches out automatically, pulling the small body closer. The whimpering stops. This is what the village means when they talk about becoming one during winter. It's not a metaphor. You're literally one organism right now, one mass of shared heat and breath and heartbeat. Personal space doesn't exist. Privacy? What privacy? Your uncle's elbow is in your ribs. Someone's foot is pressed against your calf. The dog behind you keeps twitching in its sleep, probably chasing rabbits in its dreams. And you know what? You wouldn't trade any of it. Because alone out there, in that snow shelter, with the wind trying to kill you, that was the loneliest you've ever felt. The silence, the darkness, just you and your own breathing and the knowledge that if something went wrong, nobody would know until spring. This is better. This tangle of bodies and warmth and occasional snoring. This pile of humans and dogs all keeping each other alive through the worst the world can throw at them. You think about what your grandmother said earlier. Every piece fits together. Miss one piece, the whole thing falls apart. The sleeping arrangement is another piece. Not the most obvious one. Not the one outsiders would think about first. But take it away. Start sleeping alone. Spread out. Everyone for themselves. People would die. The hours pass slowly. You drift in and out of that half-sleep state where you're aware of everything around you, but also sort of dreaming. The wind outside rises and falls like breath. The fire crackles softly. Someone murmurs in their sleep. At some point you notice one of your cousins shivering. Not the normal sleep shivers, real shivering. The kind that means the body is losing heat faster than it can replace it. You don't even think about it. You reach over, grab his shoulder, start pulling him toward the center of the pile. Your aunt wakes, sees what you're doing, helps. Together you shift the boy deeper into the warmth. He ends up pressed between two of the dogs and your grandmother, surrounded on all sides by heat sources. The shivering slows, stops. His breathing evens out. Crisis over. Nobody died. This is what happens when someone gets too cold. You don't leave them where they are and hope for the best. You move them, pull them into the core, let the combined heat of everyone else do what one body can't do alone. The tribe becomes a single living thing that protects all its parts. You've heard stories about war parties caught in sudden storms, groups of warriors far from home, no teepees, no families, just men and their weapons and the deadly cold. They do the same thing, sleep in pairs or threes, backs pressed together, sharing cloaks. The brotherhood of warmth, they call it. Nothing awkward about it, nothing strange, just survival. Refusing to share warmth with a companion, that would be the strange thing. That would be madness. Matto's voice comes out of the darkness. Your watch is over. Sleep now. You don't argue. Your eyes are heavy. The warmth around you is making it hard to stay alert. You let yourself slip deeper into the pile. Feel the bodies shift to accommodate you. The dog at your back presses closer, and its heat seeps into your muscles. The wind keeps screaming outside, but in here, in this tangle of warmth and breath and heartbeat, it sounds very far away. Morning comes slowly. You become aware of light first. Pale grey seeping through the smoke hole. Then sounds. Someone stoking the fire. Quiet voices. The children waking up, squirming out of the pile like prairie dogs emerging from a burrow. You don't want to move. You're warm. Deeply, thoroughly warm in a way you haven't been in days. Your body's been working all night, generating heat, sharing it, receiving it back amplified. But the day is starting. There's work to do. You extract yourself from the pile slowly, carefully, trying not to wake anyone who doesn't need to be awake yet. The air outside the blankets hits your face like a slap. Cold, sharp. Your breath makes white clouds. Inside the pile, warm. Outside the pile, not warm, but that's okay. You stretch, pull on your outer layers, prepare to face the day. The fire is burning higher now. Your aunt is adding chips to it, building it up for morning cooking. The teepee is warming. Soon it'll be comfortable enough to move around without huddling. Your grandmother is still asleep, or maybe just resting. It's hard to tell with her. She looks smaller somehow, wrapped in the blankets, more fragile than she seems when she's giving orders, but she survived another night. They all did. The whole family, packed together like cargo in a boat weathering the storm. You step outside to relieve yourself and the cold hits you like a physical force. The air burns your lungs. The snow crunches under your feet with that particular squeak that means deep, dangerous cold. You do your business as fast as humanly possible and get back inside. The teepee feels warm compared to outside, even though you know it's barely above freezing in here. Breakfast is pemmican and dried. Meat, heavy food, fuel for the furnace. Your mother makes sure everyone eats, even the ones who say they're not hungry. Eat, she says. Your body needs it. The children eat without complaining. They know the rules by now. Eat in winter. Eat even when you don't feel like it. Eat because stopping means dying. The storm continues outside. You can hear it, feel it pressing against the walls, but inside, life goes on. Someone starts singing, a low, quiet song just to pass the time. Others join in. The children start a game with bone dice. Your aunt goes back to her sewing. This is winter, long hours trapped inside, waiting for the weather to break, finding ways to fill the time without going crazy. Your grandmother finally wakes, or finally admits to being awake. She accepts a piece of pemmican, chews it slowly with teeth that aren't as strong as they used to be. "Bad night," she says. "Cold." "We stayed warm," your mother replies. Your grandmother looks around at all of you, her family, her tribe, the people she's kept alive through more winters than you can count. Good. One word, but it contains everything. The fire crackles, the wind howls, and inside this thin wall of hides and snow, life continues. You think about all the people who've slept like this, piled together against the cold, generations of them stretching back farther than anyone can remember. They all did the same thing, positioned the children in the centre, put the strong ones on the outside, brought the dogs under the blankets, and they survived. Over and over, winter after winter, they survived. That's what you're part of now. A chain of survival stretching back thousands of years, each link connected to the next by shared warmth and shared wisdom. Your grandmother catches you staring. "What are you thinking?" she asks. You're not sure how to answer. Something about history, something about connection, something about how this pile of sleeping bodies is actually nothing, you say. Just thinking. Your grandmother studies you with those dark eyes that seem to see everything. She's been reading faces for longer than you've been alive, longer than your mother's been alive. "Tell me," she says. So you try. You try to explain about the chain, about how every person who survived winter before you is connected to you somehow. How their choices, their knowledge, their stubbornness in refusing to die, all of it lives on in the way you sleep, the way you eat, the way you build your shelters. Your grandmother listens, nods slowly. "You understand now," she says. "Good." The fire crackles. Outside the wind is still howling, but it sounds farther away now, less angry. The storm is passing. "Let me tell you about the Earth people," your grandmother says. You settle in closer. So do the children who've abandoned their bone dice game. Everyone knows that when grandmother starts a story, you listen. Far to the east of here, along the big river, there are people who do not follow the buffalo. They stay in one place, build houses that do not move. She pauses, remembering. Your grandmother travelled more in her youth, went places most people in your village have never seen. I visited them once, she continues, when I was young and foolish and thought I knew everything. A dry laugh. The Mandan, that's what they call themselves, and their houses. She shakes her head slowly, like she still can't quite believe what she saw. They dig into the earth itself, build a dome of logs and cover it with soil, a layer of dirt as thick as my arm is long, sometimes thicker, and they live inside like rabbits in a burrow. You try to picture it, a house made of dirt. It sounds cold, wet, miserable. But it's not cold, your grandmother says, reading your face again. That's the magic of it. The earth holds warmth like a grandmother holds a secret, slow to take it in, slow to let it go. She demonstrates with her hands, cupping them together. In summer, the house stays cool. The earth remembers the cold of winter and keeps it inside. In winter, the house stays warm. The earth remembers the heat of summer. It's like the land itself is breathing for them. Your mother is listening too. She's heard this story before, but she leans in anyway. The entrance, your grandmother continues, is a long tunnel covered with more earth. You have to walk through it bent over, like crawling into a beaver lodge. By the time you reach the inside, the wind is just a memory. Can't find you, can't touch you. She mimes the wind trying to push through, then giving up. And the floor? They dig it down below the ground, lower than the door. Heat rises, cold sinks, so all the warmth pools right where the people sleep. It's clever, really clever. Different from everything you know about survival, but clever in its own way. Could we build one, you ask? Your grandmother shakes her head. We follow the buffalo. The buffalo doesn't wait for us to build houses in the ground. When the herd moves, we move. She gestures at the teepee around you. This is our way. Fast to raise, fast to take down. Warm enough to survive, light enough to carry. Different problem, different answer. But the earth houses are better for staying, worse for travelling. She shrugs. The Mandan don't need to move. The river brings them fish. Their fields give them corn. So they dig into the earth and wait for winter to pass. She's quiet for a moment, staring at the fire. I slept in one of their houses once, dead of winter, storm worse than this one. She gestures vaguely toward the howling wind outside. Inside that dirt dome I could barely tell, warm as a summer night. The women were cooking, children playing, men telling jokes like it was any other day. Your youngest cousin has crawled into your grandmother's lap. She strokes his hair absently while she talks. Snow piled on the roof so thick you could walk across it. But inside, nothing changed. The earth kept all that heat trapped. Their fires weren't even that big. Didn't need to be. You imagine it. A house you can't blow down. A house that doesn't shake in the wind. A house that's basically a cave, but dry and warm and full of people. Some of their houses had horses inside, your grandmother adds. In winter, the best horses sleep with the family, body heat, and other smells. She wrinkles her nose and the children giggle. The smoke hole at the top was huge, big enough to climb through. In good weather, people sat up there, watched the world, talked to neighbours whose houses were so close you could almost reach out and touch them. She's lost in the memory now. You can tell by the way her voice has gone soft, distant. Whole villages of these earth domes, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all packed together like a herd of sleeping buffalo. From far away you'd think they were just hills, just part of the land. Then you'd see the smoke rising and realise, no, those are homes, people live there. Your youngest cousin has crawled into your grandmother's lap. She strokes his hair absently while she talks. The walls inside were thick as a man's body, and they covered them with hides and mats so the dirt didn't crumble on you while you slept. Made it almost cosy, almost like our teepees, but heavier, more permanent. She stares at the fire, remembering. They had platforms for sleeping raised up off the ground, wood frames covered with hides, and under the platforms they stored everything: food, tools, weapons. Like the whole house was one big storage space with people living on top of it. Took some getting used to, she admits. Sleeping with horses right there, but they were warm and they were safe. That's what mattered. The fire pops, sending a small shower of sparks up toward the smoke hole. Your aunt adds another chip to keep it going. The point, your grandmother says slowly, is that there are many ways to survive winter. Our way, their way, the ways of tribes you've never heard of and will never meet. Different problems need different answers. She looks at you directly. But all of them figured it out. Every tribe, every people, from the frozen north to the mountains in the south. They all found a way to get through the cold. You think about that. All those different people spread across lands bigger than you can imagine, all of them facing the same enemy, cold, hunger, the long dark, and all of them winning, somehow. How did they know what to do, you ask? Your grandmother smiles. It's a sad smile, sort of. The smile of someone remembering people who aren't here anymore. They tried things. Some things worked. Some things didn't. A pause. The ones who tried things that didn't work, they're not around to tell us about it. Death as a teacher, the harshest teacher there is, but effective. Every piece of knowledge we have, your grandmother continues, came from someone who survived. Someone who figured out that you need to eat fat in winter, that you need to shake the snow off before you come inside, that you sleep with children in the middle and dogs under the blankets. She looks around at your family all gathered close. We're here because they learned, and they taught, and we remembered. The wind outside has definitely gotten quieter. The storm is dying. Tomorrow might even be clear. Your grandmother yawns, a big, jaw-cracking yawn that makes the children giggle again. I'm old, she says, and talking makes me tired. She starts to lie down, rearranging herself among the blankets. One of the dogs immediately moves closer to her, pressing against her back. Grandmother, you say? What was the hardest winter you ever lived through? She's quiet for a long time. You think maybe she's already asleep. But then her voice comes out of the blanket, softer now, drowsier. The winter your grandfather died. You didn't expect that answer. You were thinking about weather, about cold, about survival. The cold that year wasn't that bad, she continues. Not the worst I've seen. But I didn't care. I wanted to walk out into the snow and never come back. Your mother's hand finds your grandmother's under the blankets, holds it. But I had your mother to think about. She was small then, needed me. A long pause. So I kept eating, kept warming myself by the fire, kept doing all the things I was supposed to do even though I didn't want to. And you survived, you say quietly. I survived. Because the body knows how to live even when the heart forgets. The fire crackles, the wind whispers, your grandmother's breathing is slowing down, getting deeper. That's the real secret, she mumbles. Not the shelters, not the food, not the clothing. Her voice is barely above a whisper now. The people, the ones who give you a reason to keep going when the cold tries to convince you to stop. She's asleep within moments, actually asleep this time. You can tell by the way her breathing changes. Your mother looks at you across the dim teepee. She doesn't talk about your grandfather often, she says quietly. I know. She's telling you because she thinks you're ready to hear it. You're not sure what to say to that, so you don't say anything. The teepee is quiet now. The children have fallen asleep in a pile near the fire. Your aunt is dozing against her husband's shoulder. Even the dogs have settled, their eyes closed, their breath steaming gently in the cold air. You should sleep too. The storm is passing. Tomorrow there will be work to do. Maybe hunting, if the weather clears enough. But you lie awake for a while longer, staring at the smoke hole, watching the thin column of smoke rise into the darkness. You think about everything you've learned in the past few days, the snow shelter, the bone marrow, the chips burning slow and steady, the clothing that bends but doesn't stiffen, the food that turns into heat inside you, the people who sleep together because alone means death. All of it connects. The physical survival and the emotional survival. The techniques passed down through generations and the love that makes those techniques worth learning. Your Uncle Matto admitting he was wrong to ignore the warning signs. Sunka Wakan sharing his cloak and his warmth after days of silent resentment. Your mother stuffing you with food she knew you'd need. Your grandmother staying awake to tell stories that teach as much as any survival manual. Every piece fits together. Miss one piece, the whole thing falls apart. But there's another layer now, one you didn't see before. It's not just about surviving, it's about why you survive, the people who depend on you, the ones you depend on in return, the chain that stretches back through time and will stretch forward after you're gone. Your grandmother survived her hardest winter because your mother needed her. You survived the blizzard because... why? Because your family would have been broken without you. Because Sunka Wakan would have had to carry that weight if you died. Because your mother had already lost enough. Because you matter to people, and they matter to you. That's the part they don't teach. The part you have to figure out for yourself. All the survival knowledge in the world is useless if you don't have a reason to use it. Your grandmother found hers. Your mother has hers. Now you have yours. The fire has burned down to embers, just enough glow to keep the chill at bay. Someone will wake up soon to add more fuel. Probably your aunt. She's always been a light sleeper. For now, though, everything is still. Quiet. The storm is a memory already fading. You close your eyes. The warmth of the bodies around you seeps into your bones. Your dog shifts against your back, pressing closer. Someone murmurs in their sleep. A child sighs. This is home. Not the teepee itself, but this. The breathing, the heartbeats, the shared warmth. You think about the Mandan in their earth lodges, buried in soil, waiting out the winter like seeds. You think about your ancestors, learning through trial and death what works and what doesn't. You think about all the people who will come after you, who will sleep exactly like this, surrounded by family, protected by knowledge, kept alive by love. The chain continues. You're part of it now, not just receiving the knowledge, but carrying it forward. Someday you'll teach your own children how to build a shelter in the snow, how to read the sky for coming storms, how to position the family for sleeping on the coldest nights, and maybe they'll ask you about the hardest winter you ever lived through. You'll tell them about the blizzard, the separation, the shelter you built with your own hands, the bone marrow and the brotherhood of warmth, the long walk home. But mostly you'll tell them about this, the afterward, the warmth of coming back, the grandmother who called you foolish and wise in the same breath, the mother who stuffed you with food because she knew what was coming, the family that waited for you, that made surviving worth the effort. Your breathing slows, your muscles unknot. The cold outside is just a fact now, not a threat. Something to deal with tomorrow. Tonight you're warm, you're safe, you're not alone. And that really is everything. Sleep takes you gently. Not the desperate unconsciousness of exhaustion, but real sleep. Deep sleep. The kind your body only allows when it knows, truly knows, that everything is okay. The fire glows. The wind dies. The stars come out above the smoke hole, cold and distant and beautiful. The teepee holds you all like cupped hands. The dew cloth keeps the draughts away. The grass between the walls traps the warmth. The hides on the floor cushion your tired body. Everything working together the way it's supposed to. Outside the plains stretch forever. Empty. White. Cold enough to kill anything that doesn't know how to survive it. But you know. Your people know. They've known for longer than memory. And inside the teepee, wrapped in hides and warmth and each other, the family sleeps. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. More storms. More cold. More work to keep everyone alive. But that's tomorrow. tonight is for rest, and rest, earned through struggle and wisdom and love, is the sweetest thing there is. So you sleep, deeply, peacefully, surrounded by everything that matters, just like thousands before you, just like thousands after. The chain holds, the warmth spreads, the night passes, and somewhere, in the quiet of your dreams, you can almost hear your grandmother's voice, telling you stories, teaching you secrets, keeping you safe, even now, even asleep, even at the end of everything, safe, warm, home,